were dragons when I was a boy. Where they went, only a few know. Our story changed the world forever.
You know, the more I view animated films, the more I learn it's best to jettison any notions you have going in, as best as you can. No matter what the end result, you wind up having a better experience for it. Why do I bring this up? It's because How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, is the weakest film in the trilogy. But that's only because the original was such a fantastic, near-perfect film, and the sequel nipped at that film's heels. I'm kinda hard pressed to explain even the mild disappointment I feel at what is, without question, still a very strong fantasy adventure film, and if you've enjoyed the previous two films even a little, this is still a must-see, preferably in the cinema. This film's strengths are enhanced so much by the big screen experience that their impact could be severely lessened down the line. Even if the trailers made it obvious, this is the franchise's conclusion. It ends not just the story of Hiccup and Toothless, but also of the world of humans and dragons the previous films have established, and many of its best moments come from how those characters have evolved over time. Their growth is believable and deeply touching. If you care about these characters, and with the Night Fury, Toothless in particular, who doesn't, then you're in for a poignant farewell of a finale.
We did it! The world's first dragon Viking utopia.
Your utopia, maybe. Mine's less crowded and more... sanitary.
So, the plot. Much like Dragons 2, there's expanded scope to what came before, whereas that film often focused on incident at the expense of character, this one does a better job of keeping its character moments at the forefront. The problem, and problem may not be the right word, is that it makes the action plot revolving around the new villain feel arbitrary at times. Only at times, and that leads me into the thing that stuck with me the most, the dragon-centric scenes. This is where the Hidden World soars highest. Previous films rarely gave more than fleeting glimpses of what dragons do without the presence of humans, but this story leads to lots of dragon-only sequences. The characterization of the varying dragon species has always been perhaps the series' best aspect, and this focus on Toothless makes him almost as much of a protagonist as Hiccup. It's all done so well that the introduction of a Light Fury, a female companion for Toothless, instead of coming across as an obvious trick for a third film to do, feels instead like the most lovely and charming thing possible. The lengthy passages with little or no dialogue, from Toothless's delightfully clumsy courtship dance, to a high-flying sequence, to the arrival at the titular Hidden World, it's all the stuff of dreamy movie magic. That leads me to the thing that makes Hidden World the series' weakest film, if only by a little. The predictable story. The same could be said for Dragons 1 and 2, but very rarely was that ever a distraction. Here, we have a film that, in terms of its human plot and character growth, is more formulaic than before, just linear enough to notice it at times. Of course, it's never less than engaging and charming. The foundations from previous films and the efforts of the filmmakers see to that. It's not without its surprises, and there's all the heartfelt gusto you'd ever want the whole way, but the story familiarity is just enough to make the film not quite the series high it wants to be. There are improvements over previous films. Certainly, villain Grimmel is an upgrade over the megalomaniac warlord in Dragons 2. Even so, he falls victim to a lot of the same flaws, with hints of depth, backstory and motives that don't really do much in the end. And even though he's a real threat, little of the business surrounding him hits the engagement levels that the Toothless material does, despite his preached beliefs being something of an evolution of what the Vikings had in Dragons 1. Still, his chilly vocal performance helps quite a bit, and the returning cast remains as strong as ever. It helps that the comic relief characters all get something unique to do, much better than the love quadrangle they were stuck with in Dragons 2. Even if characters like Valka and Gobber don't do a whole lot, they still serve a purpose. The film is, of course, beautifully animated, gorgeous to behold for every moment it's running. Compared to DreamWorks' recent run of visual ingenuity, it's not experimental or creative like the Kung Fu Pandas or Trolls, nor does it dabble into quirky, funky animation like the Boss Baby or Captain Underpants did. Heck, the textures aren't even improved more than marginally from Dragons 2. But honestly, I don't care. The results are still breathtaking, especially the way lighting is used. There are plenty of examples of how it diffuses through fog that are breathtaking. Every time there's a limited light source, the contrast between light and shadow is too striking for words. The Hidden World is a network of caverns bathed in a bioluminescent glow that's hypnotically psychedelic. There's plenty more, from hugely nuanced facial and acting animation in both the humans and dragons, to the phenomenal power of numerous dragons on screen, to even such small touches as the scattered sand on the Light Fury's alabaster scales. And, of course, it's all to serve the cinematic experience and make it rich as well as a treat for the senses. That will happen when you hire Roger Deakins as a visual consultant again. Same goes for John Powell's score. It's a bit too derivative of his previous two, but it gives the film the weighty gravitas it needs at any moment. Then the ending comes along, and all bets are off. I'm not going to spoil it, except to say it's the best part of the film, especially if you've been watching them since the first one nearly 9 years ago, and it's enough to help the film achieve greatness. Yes, it goes through more than its share of rocky patches along the way, but the ending redeems the hidden world. It's about saying goodbye to a wonderful universe and characters, and it achieves this largely unscathed. So, The Hidden World, whatever flaws it has, is a fantastic, visually stimulating and poignant capstone on the trilogy. It remains shrewdly funny, adds more mature notes to the characters' relationships, and largely succeeds at grappling with complex themes, showing just how much it has grown up since the relative innocence of the first film. It's an excellent treat, and one worth savouring.
Well, look who it is! Not a word.
I hope you enjoyed the video, folks. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on both the review and How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, if you've seen it, or once you have. Plus, liking, subscribing, all that good stuff would really help spread the channel's reach, as would some social media follows. Every little bit helps, you know? Until next time, folks.